Welcome back to the Protein Snack Shop podcast. Y'all, we have got a special treat for you in studio today. Best man in music, man, an extremely great human being, Struggle Jennings. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm incredible. How you guys?
Such a blessing to have you here today, bro.
Likewise. I got up this morning and got ready. I was so excited to come that I just had to eat my meal prep cold in the truck. Steak and eggs.
Oh, those days. Wait until you're doing fish and asparagus, ice cold.
Yeah.
She used to do it all, tilapia all the time.
Yeah.
Cold.
Yeah.
So, man, we met you back. What was that? 19, 18?
I'd say probably 18.
Was that at the state? Was that at the state?
It was at the Nashville Fit Show, wasn't it?
It was the my guy. Why did my mind just go blank? What's my guy's name? Flex. It was Flex.
Oh, it was at the Flex Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways,
you're right.
So we got pictures. I got a picture with you.
I was starving, and I saw cheesecake and snacks over in the corner, and I'm like, that can't be good. And I walked over, and I'm like looking at the back of it. I'm like, oh shit, I can eat this.
Yeah, you guys bought so much of our stuff that day.
You're our biggest customer.
I want to go ask him for a picture. Is that weird? I'm like, no.
Yeah, man.
So, man, we just appreciate your story. You know, I want today to people to hear. I mean, you don't have time to tell it all, but man, it'll probably bring people to tears. It'll give them goosebumps and about every emotion in between.
Yeah, we like to tell stories here. We like to inspire and educate. So we've had some doctors on here that have talked some amazing nutritional advice, and Sonny being a pharmacist has brought that. But then we've brought some amazing inspirational stories, and I think yours is probably going to be one of the top inspirational stories. I mean, it is a true rags to riches story.
For sure.
And it's just, I think that there's so many people out there that you can inspire with your testimony and just what you've been through.
Yeah, it's been one of the biggest blessings that God has given me, is not only bringing me through everything that I've been through, but giving me somewhat of a platform and an opportunity. And I can't even say a second chance because I've had about 30.
I was going to say.
But giving me another opportunity to share that, to be able to inspire people and let them know, like, look, man, I've been through just about anything that a human can go through, or somebody that I know has, or I've seen it, I've watched it, I've felt it, and I'm still here. And I'm light years beyond where I ever believed that I can be. And it just comes down to faith and hard work and perseverance and just keep pushing, you know.
Take us back, you know, give us kind of the version of, you know, just childhood through kind of the hard times that you've had a lot of them in your life, but
yeah, for sure,
where you ended up, and then kind of the positive, the richest story has been amazing. Can I walk us through that?
So I was born 1980. Don't tell anybody how old I am.
I'm older than you.
I'm way older than you, bro.
Well, y'all don't look it.
You give me hope.
I was born 1980. My mother was the daughter of Waylon Jennings. My father was just a good old boy thug from West Nashville, you know, in the middle of everything. They met at the skating rink. And actually, my mother just confirmed it the other day. I was conceived in the back of an El Camino.
Yes, that's just appropriate, though.
My next album is called El Camino. Next year.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Didn't you just buy a car?
I just bought a Monte Carlo.
A Monte Carlo. That's what it was.
That's the name of my new project. It's
Okay.
Monte Carlo. I dropped one of the singles last month or a few weeks ago, and the album comes in March. I got a bunch of different singles, and the album's completely different. There's some 90s country, there's some 2000s rap, there's me singing, there's some rock, there's some blues. It's just really a project full of emotions that all stemmed from the nostalgia of driving that 84 Monte Carlo SS.
Wow.
The smell of the motor, the smell of the seats, the radio, the static in the radio where you can't get the station just right, you know, but the song's so good you're still singing it. Just that nostalgia and that feeling, you know, it strikes so many different emotions. You know, I say this as humbly as possible, but I have perfected what I can do rapping wise. My tone, my stylistic abilities, my lyrical content, I have reached the pinnacle of rap that I can reach. Like, I'm the best at what I do, period.
Absolutely.
So now singing is a whole nother animal. So it was just like, with training or with anything else in life, when you reach a certain spot, it's like, okay, now what's the next mountain that I can climb? What's the next thing that I can conquer? And for me, it's singing, because I've always wanted to sing, but I've never really been a singer,
It's a whole
except
different
for
ball
the,
game.
the car and the shower.
Yeah.
Right. We're all good there.
Yeah. And it's crazy because it's totally different when you get on this microphone. I'll sing something in the car the whole way to the studio, and I get there and it does not sound the same. I'm like, can we put the mic in the car?
Right,
Yeah, right.
exactly.
But so just breaking myself down, and there's a lot of frustrating moments in building this album because of that, because I'm like, God, I just can't hit that note, or why's my voice cracking? Why, but it's all learning it, and it's training my voice, training the muscles, and really 90% of singing is confidence as well. So where I wasn't a confident singer, I'm a confident rapper because I know what I can do. So it's just building that up. It's just, training it. So there's a lot of mistakes in this album and a lot of growth, but the emotion's all there. So
yeah,
That's
all
awesome.
your songs have great emotion, man.
Yes.
I'm really excited about it. So back to the story. Conceived in the back of an El Camino. My mom and dad, my dad was wild, she actually took me and left Nashville and went to Arizona when I was 9 months old. My dad jumped on a motorcycle, drove to Arizona, came and got us, brought us back. They lasted till I was about 4. Then I spent, most of my weekends in West Nashville with him, living in the weekdays in Franklin with my mom. Went to elementary and middle school and stuff in Franklin. My mom got remarried, super abusive relationship. She was with a bodybuilder that was just, probably amped up on trend. Now looking back,
Yeah.
But he'd put his hands on her and stuff. They finally got a divorce. My dad got killed when I was 10, all around the same time. My mom was jumping into another relationship. Waylon didn't really approve of it. And he was like, you need to focus on yourself, your career, and your son. And so my mom, I commend my mother for her strength and her wanting to not live off of my grandfather's money, wanting to do it on her own, So we moved to the other side of town. Definitely a huge culture shock. I mean, I had spent the weekends as a little kid in West Nashville, and I knew all my cousins, and I had been out there and been in fights and, hung out at the skating rink and stuff. But as far as like actually living in that environment, I hadn't done that before. So immediately within a couple of years, I was joining a gang. My mom was working 2 jobs, going to cosmetology school. Like, she was busting her ass trying to figure it out and still work on her music. So I had a lot of time at home, that I was home alone, and of course wandering around the neighborhood, getting to spend the weekends at my grandfather's house and sing, going to see Shooter and stuff, because me and Shooter are a year apart, my uncle Shooter Jennings. And, seeing the life that they had, the Cadillac, the Mercedes, the Jaguar, the maid, the nanny, and so seeing that side of everything, but then going back to my neighborhood, to the only people that had Cadillacs or Benzes or Jaguars were the drug dealers, I automatically gravitated towards that.
Naturally.
Because my environment, which now I've, as I've grown up and, going through prison and breaking everything down, I realize that you can't justify your cognition on your conditions. You can't use that as an excuse because these were my conditions. These are why I made the decisions. But a lot of times we do that in life, of course, especially in the beginning of a journey when we're still learning. Right. So I use that where I live, where I can't. This is the only way. Of course, my father's side of the family, they were all from West Nashville, poor hustlers. So they had always beat that, by any means necessary. You feed your family. It's okay to do wrong if it's for the right reasons, had all those instilled in me. So that just led me on a path of, years of drug dealing and running with the gang. And when I was 15, it had got to a point where I had like been on the run from the police. I wasn't going to school. I was in and out of school. I had already caught a couple of Grand Theft Auto charges, stealing cars. My mom just was at a point where she was exhausted. She couldn't do it anymore. I caught a bunch of charges, and they were going to send me off to Taft, which is like the DYD, Department of Youth Development, kiddie prison. And Waylon came in to the courtroom, him and my uncle Tadpole, who was my dad's brother. And they came in, said, hey, he just needs a father figure. Of course, you know, the judge was like, all right, Mr. Jennings.
Yeah, right. Oh, can I get my autograph too, by the way?
We got you. Yeah, can we get a picture of that?
Now, real quick, were you an only child?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not an only child. So I've got a little brother. He's my heart, named Curtis, and he's by my dad and my stepmother.
Okay.
So he was 2 when my dad got killed.
Okay.
But so I've kind of been like his father, his big brother, and that's actually where I went to live when I came home from prison with my little brother. Wow. And but he's my whole world. You know what? Matter of fact, I'm glad I just said that, because he called me yesterday and was like, man, I listened to that podcast that you just did, and you didn't mention me.
I'm so glad I asked that.
Yeah, he was like, you didn't mention. You just said I lived in my brother's basement, and I was like, yeah, bro, but like,
but I need my name. Man.
Yeah. So Curtis Harness, man, he's the best dude in the world. No, he is amazing. Like, he grew up in West Nashville his whole life, with my dad not being there, and his mom was, you know, a strong woman that, you know, worked and got it however she had to get it, and he had every excuse to follow all the wrong paths, but because he was one of the few in my life that actually watched the mistakes that I made and didn't make them. And I kicked his ass every time he wasn't.
That's
There's a couple of times where I got word like, hey, I heard your brother Curtis has some weed over there. And I was like, oh, really?
He won't have it for long.
He doesn't have it. He doesn't have it anymore. But yeah, it's my heart. So, and then I have a newer little brother who's 18 right now. My mom decided to have another kid.
Oh, okay.
So, which one? I talked about him more on the other show.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all we'll say about him today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
we'll reference that.
Mom's got a new baby.
Yeah.
But
so I'm sorry I interrupted you when your grandfather came into the courtroom.
oh yeah, so he came in. I went to live with my uncle Tadpole in West Nashville. Tadpole is a special breed. He's like one of those real deal, hardworking, by any means necessary kind of guys, you know. And he taught me how to build cars, grow weed, stay out of trouble by doing trouble.
How to do it right.
Yeah. No, he really taught me what it meant to be a man, you know, in a lot of aspects. Of course, some of the things that he taught me I had to unlearn.
Yeah.
You know, to be the man that I am today.
Yeah.
But he's amazing. He's actually just had a surgery. He's fighting cancer, but he's on the top of it. So
that's awesome.
He's a fighter for sure. He's like picture Patrick Swayze in the 80s. That's Tadpole.
Oh yeah.
He was that
That's
guy.
awesome.
I love it.
Yeah. So I moved in with Tadpole. He automatically put me to work, doing construction, making me go to school. You know, he had a real strict policy. I couldn't leave the house with guys. I could only leave with girls.
Okay.
He said, guys will get you in trouble. Learn
It's
later.
interesting.
Learn later in life.
Yeah. Little did you know, right?
But so Tadpole, you know, was living with him for a while. We ended up butting heads. I ended up dropping out of school, just being, you know, I didn't want the discipline, you know, because it was like a fine line with him, especially. It's like he didn't care if I was doing illegal stuff. He just wanted me to be a good person. You know what I mean? So as you're young and you're wild, and, you know, a lot of those lines get blurred. So we didn't see eye to eye on a few things. And which, looking back, you know, he always had my best interest at heart, and I love him to death. But so I ended up moving back out to East Nashville with my mother. she was living with another guy, and she had a new fiance, and moved out there, and just caught up. Like, you know, it didn't matter where I moved, I was still doing the same thing. You know, I would just find the people in that neighborhood to
You're the same person.
to do the same thing with. So met the mother of my 2 oldest kids. We ended up having Brianna. At that point, I had been wilding out super tough, you know. A lot of robberies, a lot of, you know, we were robbing drug dealers. And
how old were you at this point?
18, 19.
Okay.
And so found out that I was doing cocaine like crazy. Like, at the time I was doing like a half ounce of coke a day.
Wow.
Just partying, you know, illegal activity. Ended up finding out that she was pregnant with Brianna, and decided to, quote unquote, settle down, which just means you stop robbing and start selling. You don't use the drugs, you try to sell them, right? So had Brianna, quit doing cocaine at that point, and you know, made a lot of changes for the better. But of course, you know, I was fighting the reputation that I already had,
Right, of course,
trying to get into the drug game, but nobody wants to meet me in a dark alley to buy some drugs, because they don't think that they're going to get
out.
Yeah. So bought my first house, started raising Brianna, got caught up in a huge drug bust. I actually got caught up in 2. Got caught in one where undercover had been sold 25 pounds of weed, and I had actually met the undercover. A guy that I knew brought him to me and set me up, you know. But then I had only made the initial sell with him for like 1 pound, you know, and then he called back and wanted more. And so at the time I wasn't like delivering it, you know. I had it, but I was having friends that would drop it off and stuff. So I ended up having to just eat that, so they didn't all go to jail. And just tell you, I took the rap for all of it. Right before I went, the mother of my kids and another friend of mine had went and made a deal with somebody. The friend had brought him in. He ended up being undercover FBI. So they sold some stuff to him. They all get, as I'm going to jail for the other charge, the feds are kicking in all my doors looking for me, but I'm already in jail. So then they come in there, and of course, I fought that case for I was locked up for 15 months for the weed cases, and then got out on 3 years community corrections. While the whole time I was on community corrections, I was like fighting that Fed case. Like, they were threatening me. Like, we're coming to indict you. They'd already indicted the mother of my kids because she actually made a sale. They indicted the other guy because he had made the sale and ran from the police and shot at the undercover and, you know, everything. So they were already going to jail. Luckily, none of them were telling on me. There was enough told to where they knew it was mine, but there was really no proof to it. That's where my daughter Innocence's name came from, because I got out of jail. I'd met a new girl, who the mother of my 3 youngest kids, and the feds are literally like showing up to my work. Like, if you don't tell us something, we're fixing to take you to jail now. And I'm like, I don't know anything. Like, I'm fresh out of jail. I don't know anybody that's doing anything, you know. So of course I wasn't going to tell anyway, but you know, that was my excuse. Like,
right.
I'm out the game. I don't know. So they're showing up to my work, and they're threatening. And she tells me one day, she was like, you know, I've been praying that we have a kid. So, cause you know, I was looking at 25 years. She was like, so that, you know, if you do go, at least I have a piece of you.
Oh.
And so I went in the other room and like dropped to my knees and like tears and prayed, like, God, if I got to go do this time, I'm already leaving 2 kids behind. Cause I had my second child, my son, little Will, he was born while I was in jail for the first charge. And so when I got out, me and my baby mother weren't together anymore. She was fighting that Fed case. She was doing her, you know, she was young, wild, and having fun. So I was a single father with Brianna and little Will at this time. Met the new girl, I'm fighting the cases, working, not doing anything illegal. And she tells me she wants to have a kid. I go in there, I'm breaking down, I cry. I'm like, God, I'm already leaving 2 kids. I don't want to leave a third. Unless you're going to claim my innocence, please do not let this girl get pregnant. We found out about 3 weeks later that she was pregnant, and the feds never knocked again. Like
That's
literally,
crazy.
they never came back by that house, by my work. Like they just gave up. And it was just one of those testimonies, just moments where you look at the sky like, really?
Yeah.
It's all God.
Yeah, like I deal with a lot of death and a lot of grief because people are dying around me nonstop, and God shows up at the craziest times. There's been times I've lost a lot of family members and friends to overdoses, these last few years from fentanyl. And I just actually had a friend who lost his brother not long ago, and I was just sitting there in the hospital, and his brother's fighting for his life in another room, and the whole family just does not believe in God, And I was just begging, please show your face today, and make these people believe, But it's not up to us,
Right.
And I feel like, even though he did pass, I feel like God still showed his face that day because it brought all his family back together. A lot of them were fighting. A lot of them were going through stuff. But we never know, we never know. But he showed his face quite a few times in my life.
Yeah.
I thought we were just talking about it outside. It's like, it doesn't matter how many times we screw up. If it's his plan,
he'll meet us right where you're at.
He will.
He'll meet you right where you're at.
And people say all the time, they'll be like, oh, you which I've been spiritual and I've been religious. I've been a Christian my whole life. My grandmother, Jessie, is like, she planted all the seeds. My mother is, very, very devout. So they planted all the seeds when I was a kid enough to where even when I strayed, I still always had that in me. I had that light. I had that faith. I knew, right from wrong. And I can't even count the countless nights that I did something terrible and cried and prayed, Father, forgive me,
Been there.
And he always does.
He always does.
He always does.
Like there was a time right before I went to jail when these guys had tried to pass off some counterfeit money to me in a sale, and we chased them down, and they literally, we were car to car, and they opened fire on me, 16 shots into my window. I'm sitting in the back seat of a Saturn. You remember how little?
Oh yeah.
And I was sitting in the back seat, 16, 17 shells through the window. It looked like every one of those bullets went through me. When I got out of that car and we looked at the car the next day, it's like, how did I not, there's no explanation on why I did not feel every one of those bullets, and for not a single one of them to touch me.
That's crazy.
My face was powder burned. I had like red blistery burn on my face from where I guess some of them were flying by me so fast.
That's
insane.
But not a single shell went through me that night.
But this is all your testimony. This is all. We had a long talk about this a couple nights ago about God chooses us.
Yeah.
Everyone has the opportunity to choose him, but he's chosen us, and he just wants us to choose him. And once that happens, it doesn't matter how you veer from him. It doesn't matter what you do in your life. You will always come back to him.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
And whatever happens during that time when you veer from him, or when you're living your life, or you're doing whatever it is you're doing, he's like, you're just writing your story.
Yeah.
He's like, I know you're coming back. I know you're coming back.
Yeah.
And so all of that is your story, and he wants you to write that.
Yeah.
And then you can share it with people like you are today.
Yeah, your testimony, man. It's just, he's just giving you the cliff notes. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's way better.
Well, there's, I've gotten to the point where, it doesn't matter what happens in my day. I don't look up and say, why? I've done that a lot in my life. Like, God, why am I going through this? Why? I was doing right this time, or I thought I was doing the best thing that I could, or why? It's like, I don't even ask anymore. I'm just like, okay, what's next?
Yep.
Like, let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's
Like,
go.
I'm ready for it.
Bring it on.
Because he's proven time and time again that, if you believe in him, no weapon formed against you can prosper.
That's it.
You know,
Amen.
Amen.
and I'm not even talking about physical, you know,
Mhm.
because somebody could, you know, pull up next to me today when I leave here and gun me down. But maybe it was because this was the story I needed to tell, like whatever it is,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
whatever
You're
he
right.
has
Right.
planned, I'm ready for it. And so I live my life without fear. You know, I know that I'm good. I know that my kids are good. My grandmother messed me up when I was a kid, because she would tell me her mother was a Pentecostal preacher that
Oh, boy.
in
Oh, wow.
Arizona.
Yeah.
That
Whoa.
would carry people up back when women weren't supposed to speak in church.
Mhm.
And she would carry people up into the mountains and like heal them and pray over them, and you
Mhm.
know, and was known for this. And so my grandmother used to always say, "Baby, you're protected by the blood of the righteous," you know.
Mhm.
And so I just my whole life thought I was invincible.
Oh, wow.
Like,
Well, you
Right?
were.
You do.
I
You
was so
do.
far. I have been. You know.
Yeah.
But it's been such a blessing to be able to share that with people. You know, I got a good friend. Y'all know David Manning? Oh,
Is he a gym guy?
no,
is
he's a preacher. He's out here.
Oh,
David
okay.
Manning. He's got the TV show. I don't know why my mind just blanked. It's the largest urban youth TV show, Christian show. Change TV, and he's got a rap group called Change Music.
Wow.
We're gonna have to look him
I
up.
don't
That
know.
sounds
he's out here. His
amazing.
name's David Manning. He's got a barbershop out here too,
Okay.
next
wow.
to Olympus.
Okay.
Okay.
This guy is one of the most. I've known him. His dad was a mobster. His mom still lives in Antioch.
Wow.
You know, he grew up, all his family on drugs and, you know, criminal activity. And the Lord just grabbed him, pulled him right out of it. And just, the first time I met him, he couldn't have been more than 17, 18 years old. And he just was like, and I'm, at this point, I'm living in Antioch. I've got a house full of drugs, you know, I'm back at it. And, he just had that fire in him for Jesus.
That's awesome, man.
I love that.
And people tell him all the time, they're like, man, you know, he's been offered some of the biggest youth pastor jobs in the country. You know, I'm talking about huge 7-figure salaries. And he's like, you know what, man, that's not where I want to be. I want to
Right.
be in the trenches. If they've made it to church, they're already here. You know what I mean?
That's where God was when he was on earth.
Yeah.
He was in the trenches.
Yeah. He was like, I want to be, you know, and that's why he continues to do Christian rap, and he goes and plays these bars, and, you know, any function. He could do the church. You know, the church tour and tour all the churches and rap in the churches, and the churches pay amazing money, but he'd rather go do a free show at a bar where he just knows that a handful of people. And it's been the same way for me. Like, I could have signed a deal already. I could be at arenas. I'm not saying that, you know, I'm opposed to that, because, you know, eventually I might, you know, sign a deal. I don't know. I'm independent, and I own my own independent label, and I really love where I'm at. But, you know, I'm not going to turn down if God presents something better than what I have, you know. So I'm not dissing any artist that's on a label, because everybody has their own path. And Jelly signed a deal, but he got a deal that was unheard of, that I wouldn't have passed up either. And, you know, now he's doing arenas. He's killing, he's crushing it, not because of the label, but because of the hard work he's put in up until
he's doing so good.
He got to the label. But I could have signed a deal by now. I could have, you know, maybe had chose a different path, but I would rather perform in front of 500 or 1,000 and change one life, than to put out music that wasn't conducive to who I am as a man, and that wasn't shedding light for God and positivity, and ruin one life. You know,
your fans love you.
And you've changed so many people through your music.
Oh, it's crazy.
So many.
I tell them every night when I do the shows, I'm like, you know, I get to hear y'all say that I inspire you, or I helped you through this. Hearing that is what makes me get up every morning and put them pants on. And, you know, they give me the same inspiration, you know, and getting to hear their stories of strength and hope and the shit they've been through or that they're going through. I've got some fans, I've been home 6 years from prison now. I've got some fans that are like, seeing at shows and they're like, you remember me? I'm 5 years sober now.
Oh,
You know,
Aw.
like they got sober at one of my shows 5 years ago, and now they're still 5 years sober. They own their own business. They're married now. They got their kids back. You know, like being able to watch that transition in other people's lives and be a part of it, you know,
because they've watched you do it.
Yeah.
it brought me to tears when you got on. Was it Wisconsin where the fight broke out?
Yeah.
And you were like,
Yeah.
no, man, that's not what
Madison,
we're
right?
about.
Yeah,
You know,
man.
it's about love. And I was like, man, brother, you are such an incredible human. I mean, the stuff that you've done for a little company like us and just the people around you, it's neat to see a superstar using their talents to build people up like you do and help people. You know, so many don't, and so it's so refreshing to see how connected you are
Yeah.
to all us little people, you know, and the
Hey,
things that you do.
We put our britches on the same way every day.
Right.
We got the same 24 hours.
Oh no, I think you probably jump into yours. And I feel like,
I do a backflip. No, the way I've been training lately, I'm putting them on like an 80-year-old man right now. Like, everything hurts.
Best.
so take us back. So you just got out because
Yeah, I got out, and I got out, and I was with the mother of my 3 kids, my 3 youngest kids. We ended up having Innocence, and I'm remind me to tell you about Innocence.
Okay.
Because I got something special to share towards the end, as we keep going. So I'm with Talia. They called her Chula. That was the girl that I was with. We had Innocence, Courtesy, and then Sincere is my youngest son.
I love those names.
Yeah.
I do.
And we named Courtesy after, I just told you the story about Innocence. Courtesy was named, my little brother Curtis had a baby at 16 named Little Curtis, and he had some health problems, was having real bad seizures, ended up passing away at like 16, 17, somewhere around almost 18 months, right? And it's tragic for my little brother. You know, you're 16, you know.
I can't imagine.
And even though, you know, little Curtis, you know, was having the seizures and, you know, had some health issues, and he was so beautiful, you know, and just that beautiful smile. And actually found out that we were having a kid right after that. So we named it Courtesy.
Oh, that's
That's
awesome.
amazing.
And then, of course, Sincere, he's named because Belly was one of my favorite movies. When I looked back at like DMX and Nas,
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Sincere was the one that wanted out of the game.
Yeah.
And he was the one that, you know, had the end game plan.
Yep.
So my son Sincere was kind of at that point in my life where I was like, man, I just want out, you know. And so I named him that to remind me, you know, of that. And
That's amazing.
so I had some crazy years in between having those 3 kids. I still had custody of Brianna and Little Will for a while. Then their mother, she got out. She ended up doing 3 years in federal prison. Turned her life around. She got out, got custody of them. I was traveling, recording, and gone a lot. So she wanted to kind of play catch up and spend some time with them and, you know, get some of those years back, which we can't do, but you know what I mean? But so I had Innocence, Courtesy, and through that time, I just got super tied up in a huge, I mean, it just started off selling a little bit, you know, and then of course it's like you're selling so much, you need more. Next thing you know, you're taking a trip out of state, then you're taking a trip out of the country, you know, and before you know it, literally over, you know, a course of 4 or 5 years, you know, it got to the point where we had a full-blown drug organization, you know, that wrapped around 4 or 5 states and a couple different countries, and just caught up in the chaos of that. And it's, you know, I tell people all the time when they're like, oh man, I just need to hustle enough to just get a car. And it's like, yeah, you say that.
Yeah. It doesn't stop there.
You know, it's like, I'm sure that's how it started for me. It's like, oh, my car's broke down. I'm just going to sell enough to get the car and pay rent, you know? And then.
But that feels good.
Yeah. And then you get that money and you're like, well, I can't even really buy a car with this, you know, like $10,000. Like, what is that? And then it's like, well, I need to get a house, you know, and then you get that much money and you're like, I can't even, you know, whatever. It's never enough.
Right.
You just keep feeding that fire. And then of course, with that life, you have so many bonds you got to make. People go into jail, you take losses, people get killed around you, you pay for funerals. And it's like that money, because you're not earning it the right way, it's never really yours. You know, it's the devil's, straight up. And I got a handful of loved ones that are still wrapped up in that world. And I've learned that I have to love them from a distance. You know, I can just give them the inspiration, but I don't gotta fool with you to love you.
Right.
And I don't gotta love you to fool with you. You know, it's kind of like, I just got to that point where I know where I can't go back. You know, a lot of those guys, they'll try to throw those slick shots. They'll be like, oh, you forgot where you came from. It's like, no, I ain't forgot where I came from. I know I ain't going back there.
Yeah, I know exactly where I came
like,
from.
oh, you think you're better than us? No, I'm just doing better because I'm choosing better.
Yep.
You know, it's not that I think I'm better. I just choose to be better. You know, you know, my wife kills me because, you know, she gets so angry because I help so many people still. But like, you know, I'll cut them off quick. You know, I got one of my good friends. I'm not gonna mention his name. We just talked about it last night. He came out to the video shoot and helped with the video shoot, but he wasn't doing right. You know, he put his hands on his female and he was drinking every day. And I got word he was doing drugs again. He's got kids. And so I cut him off completely, you know, and he was reaching out like, bro, I need your help. Like, what's going on? And, you know, and we've been best friends for 15, 20 years. You know, if you're not doing right, I'm not going to aid and assist that. You know, I'm not going to be the enabler, because the mother of my 3 children died from an overdose 2 years ago. And I would be damned if somebody that I love goes and buys a bag of heroin or fentanyl with the money that I gave them.
Right.
You know, because I've had to battle with that. You know, so many people that I know and that I love, that people that I was helping, you know, were getting high behind my back, and then, you know, they've died or something. And I have to live with wondering, like, hey, if I wouldn't have gave them that money,
Right.
you know, if I wouldn't have, but then, you know, the ones that I've showed tough love to, and then they still went down that path. And I'm like, dang, what if I'd have helped them? You know, but you gotta, it comes to the point where it's like, look, if you're doing everything you can to get to A to B, and it's just not, you're just not quite there, but you're working, I'm going to help you get there, you know? But if you're not making the proper steps, and you're not staying sober, you're not making those good decisions, I can't be a part of their life anymore, you know?
Absolutely.
So check on them, you know? Sometimes maybe not by calling them, by calling people around them, you know, but, so through that time, built a big drug empire, with some really good friends. My guys got jammed up, the guys that were above me. I ended up getting pulled into their case. I actually caught 2 charges around the same time. I caught a attempt to possess with the intent to distribute, which is the dumbest case. And I mean, it's a conspiracy, but just to even say that attempt.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
It sounds
with the
stupid.
intent to distribute. So I attempted to possess, to get something with the intentions of it. I didn't actually do anything, right?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
But I did. I did. I was, you know, a lot of times, especially when you're caught up in that criminal world, you like to say, oh man, you know, it's unfair. I didn't even get caught with nothing. It's like, yeah, but you did enough. You know what I mean? Like I did. If I'd have got caught for everything, a tenth of what I got caught for, I'd be doing life, you know? So the fact that I still on parole till 2025, and, you know, did a little over a handful of years in federal prison and state prison, and was on federal probation for 5 years and state parole for 13. It's a blessing, you know. Like I got I'm not gonna say lucky, because, you know, I don't really believe in God. I don't believe in luck. I believe in God.
Right.
But so we built this empire, came crashing down. I went to prison. A lot of people ask me, how did you feel when you got to prison? Like, what did it feel like? And I was like, peace. all the chaos, all the stuff that I was going through.
You have to keep looking over your shoulder.
No, I mean you do, but because it's prison.
Yeah.
You still gotta watch your back, but it's not definitely not.
How did your life change in prison? Like, how did you change as a man in prison?
Well, it completely changed. When I got in there, I was still full of some of those justifications, some of those excuses. When they're throwing those huge numbers at you for those drug charges, you're looking like, man, pedophiles don't get that time. Murderers don't get that kind of time. It's a victimless crime, which is the biggest lie that we can tell ourselves. There's so many victims, and I've watched it. I've seen the victims now more than ever since coming home. But when I went to prison, my victims ended up being my children. The mother of my kids, she started dating somebody else. She fell down a dark path. She had been depending on me. I was her rock. I was the provider. I was the man. She didn't have that anymore. So she fell super hard down a dark path of drugs and criminal activity, and which drug my kids through dope houses, and they were riddled with bed bugs, and like.
Wasn't Will run over by a car?
It was Sincere.
Sincere was.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was I think he was somewhere around a year old, or maybe 15 months, a year and a half. He was just a baby still.
Twice. They backed over him and then drove over
like
him.
A year and a half. Yeah. So my ex, his mother's aunt was high, drunk, and backed out of a yard. He was just playing in the driveway, sitting there, ran completely over him, realized she ran over him and drove back over him. Not a single bone broke. I get the call, though. I'm in prison at this time. I'm in the state prison in Mountain City, East Tennessee. And they call me. I call home. They tell me, hey, you need to call home. Your kid just got ran over. And she's, of course, crying, ecstatic. At this point, she doesn't know. She just got him at the hospital. And, I mean, he had tire tracks down his face, indentions from the tires. Didn't break a single bone in his body.
Tell me that's not all, guys.
Yeah.
That defies
all those prayers, all those
I
nights of forgive me's.
I tell people all the time, I'm only alive because of my granny's prayers. Like straight up, my grandma and my mom. But likewise for my kids, I didn't find God in prison. And a lot of people try to discourage people and try to down people when they go to prison and become religious, right? Or become spiritual. Where else when you get to your darkest moment, right, that's when he shines his light the brightest. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
Now there's some people that'll go in there and they'll try to hide behind religion for other reasons and stuff, but it's like, regardless, the closer you get to God, the better your life's going to be.
Oh, amen.
And I went into prison and I was watching all this happen with my kids. I'm literally, I just told this story the other day. I was literally calling home and having to teach my 5-year-old Innocence how to cook macaroni and cheese because her mom had been passed out for 20 hours. And her year-old little brother and 3-year-old little sister hadn't ate, and there was nothing in there but a box of macaroni and cheese. And I'm having to talk her over the phone, teach her how to make macaroni and cheese so she can feed them. I'm calling home sometimes and my Innocence is 5, 6, 7, answering the phone like, Daddy, Mommy won't wake up. She's passed out in the yard, because her mom just fell super hard, and she was an incredible woman. She let the devil take over, and
once he gets a hold, sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one way away from it, and a lot of people don't accept that. They think, as humans, we like to think that we got it all figured out and we can do it on our own.
Yeah.
It's not till you really surrender and say, hey, man, take this wheel, dog.
Yeah. I tell him that sometimes. I'm like, sweetheart, when we're struggling with something or our business is in a rough spot, I'm like, baby, you got to give it to God. I'm like, have you given it to God? And he's like, yeah, but I just feel like he needs a little help. I'm just helping him a little bit.
And there's a great thing to say there about, it's that balance, and it's about having faith, but also doing everything that you can, because, I'm not going to blaze her, but I got a family member that I love more than anybody. And she just can't seem to keep a job or to do right. And her whole thing is like, well, I know God's got me. God's gonna bring something to me. God's gonna figure. It's like, yeah, but without the work,
Yes.
you know,
You've
faith
gotta
without
put the
work, you
in.
got to put the work in. Like, yeah, God is going to let everything fall into place, but you got to move towards it. You know,
You got to work your ass off, and you got to just keep talking to him.
Yeah, straight up. So we'd love to think that we can do it on our own, but we definitely can't. So, you know, going through that and watching what my kids were going through, I realized I had no control of it. I couldn't reach out and save them. I couldn't reach out and protect them. I had some really good friends, but I was completely helpless. You know, there was nothing I could do but pray for them, except for one other thing. And that was make sure that I never put them in that situation again. And that I came out the best man, the best father that I could be. And that I got rid of all those bullshit ass excuses, all the irrational beliefs, all the justifications, all the things that I had been holding on to for all those years that kept bringing me back to these same situations. How can I fix that? Only thing I have control of is me in here. That's what I got to work on. And so I spent 5 years fine tuning, stripping myself all the way down to the farthest memories back that I could, to figure out, why do I feel like this? Why do I think like this? And then just having to relearn, losing all of that and relearning life, relearning what it meant to be a father, relearning what it meant to be a man, relearning, because, you know, I had some great, terrible role models, you know, they were like great men, you know, but they might not have done the best things, you know? So I had to relearn all of that. And I did the drug programs in the state pen and in the federal penitentiary, and they were incredible. A lot of people take them just to get the little time cut, because in the feds you get a year off and you get 6 months earlier out in a halfway house. And in the state, it'll pretty much solidify you getting parole early, you know? So a lot of people do it for the time cut. Well, the first time that I did it, of course, was for the time cut when I was in state prison, but I learned a lot from it. But then I got to the feds and they're like, oh no, you got to do it again. We're not going to, they wouldn't accept the credit from me doing it in the state for the feds. So I had to do it again in the feds. By this time I already knew all the books. They were the same books. So I caught it that second time. It really sunk in what all of this really meant. And just little things like they got a thing called a rational self-analysis, where you take a situation that happens, say a guy cuts you off, right? And of course you have these emotions, and then how do you process those emotions? You got two options of where you're going to end up. You know, you've got the desired consequence and the undesired consequence, right? And it's just being able to quickly analyze yourself to see if you're thinking rationally in every situation, right? And so being able to do that at a fast pace, and we had to do like these exercises to do that. And so that changed a lot of things in me. Of course, while I was in there, I kept building my relationship with God. I fell in love with the gym. Health and nutrition was a big thing. I lost 120 pounds in prison.
Wow.
I went in 330, came out 212.
That's crazy.
amazing.
I was obese, you know, testosterone was probably in the floor, you know, like I looked 5 years older when I went in than when I came out, you know.
Wow.
And that's all I studied was health and nutrition. God, I took all the parenting classes to the point where I was teaching parenting in the federal penitentiary.
So cool.
I was teaching health and nutrition in the federal penitentiary. And, you know, I just decided that I needed to be the best person that I could be, so that I could get out and try to give them the life that I never had, or that I know they deserve, you know. Came home in 2016. Of course, one of the biggest things that stumps a lot of guys in prison or coming home from prison is the fact that they have all these dreams, all these aspirations, all these goals. I've seen guys in there write books
I'm sure.
And have all this stuff that they just plan. They got all these plans of everything that they're going to do. And then they get out and those obstacles, life just hits them. And
I was going to say, there's so many of them in there that have those dreams and aspirations, but so few of them actually follow through with it once they get out.
Yeah. Well, they get out and doors slam in their face, and they haven't let go of all of those irrational beliefs. So they automatically just divert back to what was comfortable for them or what they know best. Right. I try to tell people all the time, because I sit in the parole office. I have to go in and get travel passes or take a piss test. And I'm just listening to these guys just complain and moan. And I'll stop them right in there and be like, bro, these people ain't the enemy. They do not want to do the paperwork to send you back. Their job is to keep you from going back to prison. Once you realize they're not the enemy and you work with them and realize that they have your best interests at heart, the system is not designed to put you back in prison. The system is, there's a million programs you can take. There's a million financial aid things, all kinds of different programs to help you when you get out. I've seen guys come home from 25-year murder sentences and walk around downtown Nashville, putting in applications with a smile, shaking hands until they got a job. And I know a couple guys that are top head chefs downtown Nashville right now that did murder sentences, making $200,000 a year salaries now.
Yep.
It's possible.
It is possible.
It's possible. You just have to let go of all that old criminal thinking. You have to be able to talk to people. They got to be able to see in your eyes that you've got compassion, you've got willingness, that you want to work, that you're not going to go back. Because of course, that's the only thing that we really have against us is people judging us for our history. But you can change that. You can change. It doesn't take, there's some people that, are super judgmental and you'll never change their mind. Life will. God will. I know some attorneys and judges and stuff that have ended up in prison for DUIs and stuff. They put a lot of people away for the same reason, and they had a lot of judgmental thoughts, and then, life will humble you, and life will teach you.
That's the truth.
But, so I came home, I had a lot of dreams, a lot of aspirations. Luckily, Jelly Roll was right there. Like, Bubba, this shit is possible. I just went on a big tour. Like, it's possible. Just don't give up. I had Yellow Wolf. He was like, come on, man, come work at the studio. We'll record your album. But I didn't have any money, and neither one of those guys were making a lot of money at that time either.
Did you know them before you went in?
Yeah. No, okay. So I've known Jelly. Me and Jelly met in 2004. Okay. We've been best friends for 18 years now. And he slept on my couch for years, and we've been through everything, ups, downs. We say from cuffs to cufflinks. I love it. That's awesome. We've literally carried 10 caskets together. I mean, we've been through everything two men can go through together as friends, and couldn't be more proud of him. But and then Yellow Wolf I met in 2008, and we've been good friends for 14, going on 15 years now.
Very cool.
So yeah, those were really the two. There's a handful that I could mention, but those are two of the handful that really held me down when I was in prison. They checked on the kids. At one point, Jelly had my 3 youngest kids before they ended up in foster care. Him and one of his ex-girlfriends had my 3 kids, but they ended up going to foster care. So when I came home, children were in foster care. Had an opportunity to go to the studio, but I was in a federal halfway house. I was paroling out to my little brother's house, Curtis. my favorite little brother, Curtis. He was so gracious as to let me sleep. He had a big finished basement. And so that's where, I went through the process of the halfway house, and then that's where I went to his house. They tried to send me back a couple times. When I first got out, I started the documentary right back off because I had started filming the documentary before I went to prison. So if you look on YouTube, there's all the documentary series, which are not going to be up there much longer because we are pulling them and they are going to have a home. We're going to put the whole project together. We've got footage from 2007 till now that shows there's so much stuff that we haven't put on YouTube that's like, interviews from people that aren't here anymore, like some crazy. There's actually, I'll give you this one moment just because we saw this the other day. He was going through some of the footage, and the mother of my kids that passed away from an overdose, she shows up. I'm fresh out of prison. She's wanting to go to a rehab. And she shows up to get some money from me to pay for the rehab. Right. And I'm at the car lot. Yellow Wolf is co-signing on me, my first vehicle, right, which I still got. My first vehicle coming home from prison. He's there co-signing, and they're filming it or whatever. And she pulls up, and I look at her, and I'm like, look, you got to get right. These babies need you. She was like, I promise this time. She was like, I'm going to do it this time. I said, pinky promise. We pinky promise. And I grabbed her. I said, now, you know, pinky promise is the most sacred promise. It's punishable by death. 2 years later, she died.
Oh, man.
So just little moments like that we have that you can't write that shit in a script.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, and we have that real life footage. So I'm really excited. I've got a couple different opportunities on where it's going to go. One of them is really huge, but then the other one, maybe not as what you would think is big, but I think the integrity of it will be safer there. So looking at different options right now.
Wow.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So
It's gonna be that is going to impact so many lives.
I'm so
You already
excited for
are,
it.
but that is going to be huge.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. So, but they were pretty upset that I was doing the documentaries, and I had left from prison. I had a 5-hour window to get to the halfway house. Well, 1 block from the halfway house was a sushi restaurant. I hadn't seen my oldest 2 kids. My smaller kids were in foster care. I hadn't seen my oldest 2 kids, in a while since a visit. So I was like, hey, y'all meet me at the sushi restaurant. We'll stop and get lunch. Well, they called that veering from the path. So they tried to send me back for it. And they wake me up. They're like, hey, well, we need to talk to you downstairs. I was like, all right. One of the guys like, man, they're finna send you back to prison. I'm like, which there's a documentary called Silver Lining that talks about this on YouTube right now. It doesn't talk about it. It's the actual footage of it happening. But, so I get down there, and this lady's like, I'm sending you back to prison. I saw your documentaries. I don't believe you. I don't like your story. I don't think this is, this is bullshit. Right. And she was like, you're going back to prison. I was like, shit. So because what they could do is they could take my year back from the drug program. I'd got the year off for doing the drug program. So I have to go back and do another year. And so the halfway house liked me. But this person who was in charge of the programs, she had it out for some reason. So I get to go that day to work, right, to the studio. Kids come, I sit them down. I tell them, hey, daddy's got to go back. I'll be gone for a little time. Of course, they're crying. The younger kids, like the foster lady brought them over, the lady who had custody of them at the time, brought them over. They cried and all this. Go to bed. My friend comes, picks up all my stuff, from the halfway house, brings me just some plain white socks, white boxers, stuff that I can hopefully carry into the next facility with me. I get woke up in the morning by one of the staff members. He's like, hey, man, you need to come downstairs. I was like, fuck, all right. Marshall's here to get me. He was like, no, man, come on. So we get down there, and it's that lady. She's like, yeah, I guess somebody above me didn't feel the same way that I do. She was like, but we're putting an ankle bracelet on you, and you're not allowed to leave. And if you have anything else, you can't do this. You can't do that. And she goes into this whole spiel, and she's like, you're going to prove me right. I know it. I'm like, all right. They're like, hey, come in this other office. She leaves. I go into the main director's office. He hits the speakerphone, and this lady goes, hey, I just want to tell you that I love your documentaries. I'm going to start using them as training because we have started to forget that greatness comes from the gray areas, and we've been a little too black and white. She said, I got to put an ankle bracelet on you to keep everybody else happy. She said, but I believe in you, and I'm going to give you opportunity to record. So she would allot me like 8 hours a week to be able to go record my album.
That's amazing.
So the episode's called Silver Lining because, it was like this crazy, moment where I thought I was going back to prison. And I thought I had to tell my kids. So then I got to call my kids back and say, actually, I'm not going to prison.
That's amazing.
But so I got out, I just stuck to it. I kept recording, and Yellow Wolf gave me a great opportunity to put out my first album, Under Some American, which was just beautiful. That's one that's got like father, like son, which has been huge for me. The Struggle Is Real with Aaron Lewis, which is another God story. I'm sitting there talking, I'm in the studio, and Peter Keys is in there, and we're talking, just about faith, and we're talking about, planning, everything that I'm talking about a vision board that I had up, right? I was like, I drew this big vision board, and I had like, this is the car I'm gonna have, this is the house I'm gonna have, these are the features I'm gonna get. And we're talking, he's like, well, who all's on there? And I was like, oh, Chris Stapleton, Aaron Lewis. He's like, hold on. Picks up the phone, calls Aaron Lewis, says, hey man, I want to play you something. He said, I'm sending you some links. Send him some links to my music and to my documentary. Aaron Lewis called back a couple hours later. He was like, I'm flying in Monday. He's like, I want to work with him.
That's
and
amazing.
it was just like, he believed in it. He believed in the story. So, within a year, I had me and my wife now, who's been my best friend for 20 years. That's a long story. It's a great one though, but it's a long one. But me and her have been best friends for 20 years. I came home from prison and was like, hey, I want to do this. Like, I want to take our friendship to the other level. I'd always had a crush on her. And at first she was like, hell no. She was like, absolutely not. But in her words, I was persistent. And we got together, and, we've been married for 4 years now, been together 6.
That's awesome.
She's got 2 kids that are my kids now. Their father just passed away this past year from a drug overdose. And a lot of our friends and family have, and, I like to say we're the 2 that made it out of the fire, and, but I get out, I get with her, start fighting. Within a year, I had custody of my kids back, had my own house, and now here we are 6 years later. I just did Red Rock, sold out last week.
I know, that was so awesome.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like.
But maybe a little louder.
Maybe a little louder.
Well, it was because it was echoey through those rocks. Dude, the acoustics are crazy. It's beautiful. And thank you to Jelly Roll for bringing me out on that. That was his show. He sold that thing out. It was a big night for him. And
you guys are killing it. Yellow Wolf, him, you.
Man.
So cool.
I'm actually going to be November 17th. I'm going to be at the Ryman with Yellow Wolf and Shooter.
Oh.
Yeah, they're performing. I'm going to come out and do a little treat.
That's awesome.
Yeah, November 17th.
November 17th.
Okay.
November 17th. And then December 9th, Bridgestone, Jelly Roll.
Okay.
Big night.
Yeah.
Big night.
Yes.
Yeah, man. So here we are 6 years later. I stuck to my guns. I didn't let up. I didn't let them tell me that I couldn't do anything. I didn't let my past define me. I made it refine me, and continued to work, faith and hard work, believed in God. Now on a record label, I've got 4 amazing artists. Actually today, Caitlin Curtis is number 11 on pop charts.
Yes.
Independent, in between Meghan Trainor and Taylor Swift. And, Taylor Swift just broke the internet with that new album, and Caitlin still charted number 11.
I'm so proud of her.
Yeah. My daughter just dropped another single called Desperado.
You're in the video.
Yeah, I'm in the video.
Yeah, I saw that.
Dude, I'm so proud of Bernie, her man. He Quentin Tarantino'd that video.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool.
Yeah.
JD Huggins, my artist, we're about to start working on his second album. He's incredible. Like, this guy's, it doesn't matter if he ends up doing rock or country, he's going to kill it because he's the real deal. He's a real Appalachian mountain chicken fighting, good old boy.
Yeah.
Kid on the way. Blue collar, just working, just good, dude that has an incredible voice. Bonnie Stewart, that's our Americana singer-songwriter. She's amazing. She actually helped me build the label and has been like, I wouldn't call it an assistant because she's half the shit that I've done in the last few years I probably couldn't have done without her, because she just kept me straight, kept the label straight and organized. And because I'm just, I'm a go-getter. I'm just moving at 100 miles an hour. And so got some incredible artists. Just dropped my new single, finna drop a new album, going in January to record another album. Shooter's producing an album on me.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
So awesome, man.
I'll show y'all the picture. We can't show the camera yet, but I will show you guys first. This is going to be the album cover. This is crazy. I don't know. I might have showed y'all this before, but I'll show it to you again.
No, I haven't seen it.
I don't think so.
Boy, I got a lot of pictures.
While you're looking, tell us a little bit about what God We Need You Now. What did it do on the charts? Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, so God We Need You Now. We're in the middle of 2020. I'm in the studio. I'm doing my rants. I'm talking about all this stuff going on. Like, even if we knew, a lot of us didn't really know, what's going on. Mm-hmm. Like, we made the best decisions and judgments that we could with the information that we had. Some of us saw through a lot of the information given.
Yeah. We're in that camp.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank God. So I'm giving the rant, and, Caitlin's young single mother, she wasn't 100% sure where she fell into any of that, as any of us did, and a few days later, she hits me back and she's like, "Hey man, I wrote this hook after listening to what you were saying the other day. And as soon as I heard it, I just knew." I was like, "Oh, this is big." So I was in the studio, me, Peter Keys, Caitlin, Scatterbrains, Mike Hartnett, all incredible. Peter Keys plays for Leonard Skinner. He's a piano player for Leonard Skinner. So Mike's written he's played on a bunch of crazy stuff. He's got like so many accolades. It's nuts. But sitting in there, and we just started with that hook and just fleshed it out and produced the song. And we released it. It did really good. And then out of nowhere, about a year later, it went completely viral. Everybody using it, just everything that everybody was going through from, every world tragedy that we've had, they've been able to attach to that song. And number one on Billboard multiple weeks in a row.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not Cardi B and Lil Nas X.
Love that.
Yeah. Yes. Actually rode number one on iTunes for months.
So
I mean, it was just back and forth,
It's amazing.
That's the album cover of me and Shooter.
That is awesome.
That's awesome.
That's me, Shooter, and Waylon.
That is
my
amazing.
goodness. That's phenomenal.
I love it. That is going to be great.
That's crazy, huh? Can you see it?
A little close. That's great. Oh, that's so sick.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So, God We Need You Now was incredible. And we followed it up, which it's hard to follow that song up.
Yeah.
But we followed it up with Crusaders, which was another one where me and her were just in the studio, and we were like, man, we're in a spiritual war. Yeah. This is a year and a half later after God We Need You Now. And it's just still, it's not, it's becoming more and more apparent that it's just good versus evil. You know? And she came up with that hook. I put my armor on. And those are some of my favorite verses that I've ever spit. Like I sing those every night with more conviction than probably any other song. I stand for what's right. Even if I stand alone, I'd rather be losing this battle than winning while fighting for something that I know is wrong. Like
that's right, man.
Dude, I love it. It's that song just and it didn't do us good, but it doesn't matter. To me, if I don't really feed into the numbers and stuff. I know a lot of people pay for all this promotion, so they get these big boosts so their numbers look better, you know. I just don't feed into it. You know, I just want to make good music that I believe in, that's from the heart, and it's God's plan.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
God's got this. Like,
Look what he's doing.
Because you're
with
talking
it.
to the
know.
people, and
Yeah.
they're listening.
and he's
And they're
he's already.
listening.
I mean, I've always believed in myself, and I've always known that I would get somewhere. I had no clue ever in my life that I would really be where I'm at right now. You know, I still have months where I struggle financially. We all do, right? You know, like
Mhm.
sometimes I've got the invoices way outweigh the income, you know, and I'm paying out way more than comes in, but it always works and it always happens. It always falls through. And let's talk about innocence.
Yeah, I want to hear the story.
That little girl who I had to teach to make macaroni and cheese,
Mhm.
she's been through hell. I mean, lost me when she was 5. She was old enough to watch every bit of her mom's path, watch every, you know, she was there. She was the one that was the most, you know, cohesive. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, 10 years old while I'm gone, right? Watching all this, bouncing from foster home to foster home, you know, watching, you know, from crack house to crack house with her mom until her mom finally did the right thing. Was like, I can't do it. I don't want to hurt these babies anymore. I'm gonna put them in foster care. I'm gonna pass custody off, and then eventually it ended up foster care. But she was the most probably affected. Courtesy was too, because she was 3 going into 8. Sincere was just a baby, so you just kind of, you know, whatever.
Mhm.
But Innocence being the oldest and having to try to take care of her little brother and sister at such a young age. Let me tell you something. She's 17 years old. I'm gonna get emotional.
Oh.
She's 17 years old, finna graduate, 3.9 GPA,
Oh,
going to
man.
college,
That's so cool.
That's amazing.
works a full-time job. You have an hour-long conversation with her, you would never know she'd been through any of it except for the strength that she's got. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Those
That's
prayers
awesome.
in prison mattered, didn't they, man?
They matter. They matter. She made me break down. But
That's amazing.
and each one of my kids just continue. You know, I could sit here and do the same spiel about Brianna. You know, she was 13 when I went away. You know, her mom went down the same path. Brianna was living with her boyfriend by the time she was 13, 14. Well, she was 12 when I went. Brianna's had #1 blues record. You know, she's crushing it. Her and her man she's got a lip gloss, their own merch company. They shoot all their own videos. You know, she's living her best life, driving a brand new Mustang, her dream car, you know, got an old Bronco that I bought her. She's a Ford girl. I'm a Chevy guy.
Yeah.
Her boyfriend converted her.
Oh no.
Oh,
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right though. But, you know, and then down to all my kids, you know, Courtesy, same thing. Like all of them just have so much strength. My stepkids, who aren't my stepkids, they're my children. Same thing. They've been through, you know, luckily they had a good mom that kept them out of the stuff, but they watched their dad in and out of the house, stealing the TV, selling it for drugs, you know, till he passed. So I got a bunch of little warriors, man. So
Well, little disciples, man.
Yeah,
little
but
disciples.
you've shown
For
them how to
sure.
do it, though.
You
You
know
know,
what? The best part, you're telling us a story at the shop, man. And I still remember you were like, you know, you were telling the story, and then you're like, now my daughter's bedroom is bigger than the foster care's home.
Yeah.
And I'm
That
like,
she was
man,
in.
it's
Yeah,
so,
man,
I still
it
think I tell
is.
that story all the time.
Yeah, she actually just I let her have y'all gonna think I'm crazy. I let her have their senior Halloween party at my house.
Oh,
my
yeah.
goodness.
There was 60 high schoolers
Oh my goodness.
turned up. I took everybody's keys because you know how it is. High schoolers are gonna sneak stuff in. I
Yeah.
try to keep a good eye on it, make sure that everybody was good. They come back, get their keys from me. We had to smell their breath, make sure everybody was straight, you know.
Yeah.
So, but it was successful. Everybody got home safe, or they crashed at my house.
That's
But
amazing.
it was about 60 of them.
Oh, I can't even
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah, it was great. They're beautiful thing.
They'll always remember that
Oh
too.
man,
Yeah.
they got pictures galore. So tell us, you got some fun stuff coming up.
Yeah.
You kind of spread your wings into other areas.
Yeah, man.
So tell us about that.
I got some acting gigs. Looks like shooting for next season. I'm putting it out in the air right now. It's not confirmed, but I will be on Yellowstone next season.
That's
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah, you will.
There's a handful of other projects. I got a really good friend named Eric that has just became one of my best friends, and he's, you know, probably silently one of the coolest people in Hollywood, if not, well, in the country, but especially Hollywood. You know?
Yeah.
And so really good friend, and he's got a lot of opportunities lined up for me. And I just signed new management. Got a guy named Scott Gaines and Brandon Friesen who are awesome. I've never really had a manager. You know, I've just always moved and, hey, if you can keep up, keep up. And these guys have stepped in now. It's really taking all the steps to move to that next level. And to, you know, somebody's like, oh yeah, you get a bigger team, then you can take more of a break. It's like, no, now I can work harder.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I don't need a break. I don't want people to take off the load. I want them to pick up some of the load so I can go pick up another load.
That's
Yeah.
right.
You know, yeah. So making a lot of great moves. Got some really cool stuff coming up. The documentary, got the album Monte Carlo in March. I'm gonna drop the first single for El Camino right behind it, probably May, June. El Camino is the next album after Monte Carlo. And then I'm recording an album with my uncle Shooter Jennings. Hopefully get that out in the fall. I'm hearing rumors of Waylon and Willie 5.
That's
Me and
awesome.
Jelly
Wow.
being recorded. We're going to shoot for December to try to record it. So
Do you sleep ever? Just about a
No,
couple hours,
I-
a couple hours a day.
I get a few hours, you know.
Between the gym and everything else.
God, gym twice a day.
Yeah.
So I woke up in December back at 287 pounds, drinking 2 bottles of tequila, you know, on stage and just, you know, running hard, still eating meal preps, but, you know, you get a couple bottles of tequila and, you know, grab a piece of pizza or something,
Mhm.
you know, still training, but, you know, workouts weren't as good, but I got back up to 287. I was like, you know what? It's just time. It's time to clean that out, you know, let go of that. I've done every show this year sober.
That's amazing.
Now, you know, I'm
Congratulations.
treating alcohol because I like to drink, you
Yeah.
know, and I think anything's fine in moderation. I mean, Jesus turned water into wine.
Yeah.
That's right.
So
He did.
I don't think he minds a little of my
No.
tequila, but so I treat it like cheat meals. You
Mhm.
know, I pick my battles. I'm like, you know what? If I know, and I don't mean cheat meals like once a week, like I do my cheat meal. But it's like, if I know I've got a big thing coming up and I'm going to be, you know, around some friends and family or something, and I might have a drink, I'll save it, you know, a month, 2 months, 3 months till that time, you know.
That's awesome.
What
and-
are you weighing now?
Am 229. I've lost almost 60 pounds, 58 pounds. And the other day I clocked in at 7.5% body fat.
Wow.
Yeah, man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But you want to get down to where you look like if you were thinking about doing a show that kind
I'm
of,
going to do a show. So
Okay.
a good friend of mine, Mel Chansey, who has an incredible story. They're actually doing his documentary with The Rock right now with $7.
that's awesome.
Mel's got a show that he does. I'm sponsoring 3 athletes right now. Big Rich, he just competed his first competition in 6 years. Did incredible in it. Then Jimmy, he just did Night of the Champions, one of my other athletes. And then Jimmy and Shelby are going down and doing Mel's show December 10th. So I'm flying for that. I got Bridgestone that night, December 9th, then fly
I was
to
just going to
Tampa.
say, yeah.
Fly to Tampa for the show. Angels and Outlaws, you know, the athletes. I'm working on a supplement line, Crusaders.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
amazing.
going to try to do a Crusaders gym 2024.
How about any tour? So I know you're producing a lot of music, some Hollywood stuff.
Yeah, I got
You got a sneak peek. You could tell the next tour, like big tour.
start in March.
That's
Yeah,
what I thought.
we'll be doing the
So-
Monte Carlo tour in March, and then me and Jelly just locked in 50 dates together next year.
Yeah, man, I'm
Wow.
happy for you.
That's amazing.
So we're looking at about 150 shows next year. So we did a little more than that this year, but it was, it was a different ball game. Before I signed on the management and stuff, it's, going into some of these bars and you're only getting $3,000-$4,000 and it costs you $6,000 to get there. Right. After you pay employees and stuff, and you're banking on tickets to sell, or then, a lot of these promoters or promotion just isn't happening. And, it's a hard battle out there when you're independent touring like that, but it's all, you just got to stick it out, and just keep growing. This year we're looking at nothing but, 1,500 to 2,000 cap rooms, picking up the pace and getting a little bit more money.
Gosh,
awesome.
man, you
Just
deserve
building.
it, brother. All the stuff you do for people is your generosity and how humble you are, man. It's just magnetic.
I'm just getting started. Right now I'm in the process of getting approved to be able to go back into prisons and talk.
I was just going to ask you.
Yeah.
That's
a big goal
absolutely
of mine.
something that you should do.
Big goal of mine.
That's awesome.
So, because I was there, and
they'll listen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like what you told us at the facility too, to help them understand they're not a victim, and they have opportunity.
Yeah.
We're actually looking at, we want to get in that program. We're hiring out of a halfway house.
Yeah.
The women.
We're growing a lot. We're growing very quickly. And so now we're getting ready to expand our kitchen, and we've got to start doing some hiring here pretty soon as we take on some big customers, and we're going to do all of our hiring through the halfway system.
Yeah. We met this other couple that have flavored peanut butter for dogs. They're crushing it.
Buddy Butters.
Wow.
2,800 accounts. We're going to be making
I got a huge dog that literally sits there when because at night I get a scoop of peanut butter, right?
Yes.
Protein shake, and I wait on that spoonful of peanut butter all day. But he's literally every time, as soon as I open that peanut butter jar, he's just looking at me.
So they made
time it is.
We'll have to get. I wish we'd have brought some. We're taking their peanut butter and turning it into dog treats. And we're going to start white labeling those for them. So
yeah.
Well, next time we'll bring you some. But.
Yeah, and they said they've hired 8 women, and they're like, they just want a second chance. They just want another opportunity. Yeah. They're the hardest workers, the best personality.
You might get 1 out of 10 that just doesn't make it. You might get 5 out of 10 that doesn't make it. But if you can help 1 out of 10, turn their life around.
That's what we're here to do.
All worth it, man. That's our prayer every day. Is God just give us one to pour into and love on, And this business is giving us an opportunity to share the love of Christ with a lot of people,
sure.
Man. Brought us to we wouldn't be here today,
man.
Wasn't our silly little treats. Well, brother, it's been a blessing and an honor to have you here.
Likewise.
Today.
Thank you.
I'm so excited for your career.
Yeah. Let's do this again as soon as I got more to talk about. I said give me about 6 months and I'll have a whole bunch more stories to tell.
I can't wait about the acting stuff.
I know.
That's going to take off big for you.
I'll be calling you as soon as I get confirmation. Like, guess what?
Yes, we can't wait.
I got to shoot this acting reel, and it's going to be fun. I got to dress up like a biker and do a bike scene, and I got to dress up like cowboy, get my stroke of Jennings, and do a little cowboy scene. It's gonna be
do
fun.
the different roles.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
Different roles. I'm excited for it.
Those are pretty natural roles for you.
Yeah, no,
that's just you every day.
They all fall right in line.
Yeah.
I think you could do a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited. I want to dip my feet in and wherever is comfortable and wherever they see me fit, and then I want to take it to the next level and give me something that's like really hard. I got to work for,
Yeah.
So
I don't know,
one step at a time.
But you're so natural. A lot of things. I think it's gonna be pretty easy.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
I don't know. Maybe a love crying scene might be a little bit.
I don't know. I just cried on.
I know. I think you guys both cried.
Yeah, man. All you gotta do is talk about one of my kids or one of my loved ones, and I'll get choked up, seeing all their strength and what they've made it through, and they give me so much strength, dude.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you encourage so many people, man.
Yes.
We're gonna keep praying that God's blesses you and keeps His hand on you, because you're gonna touch a lot. You already have, but you're gonna touch a lot of lives.
Yeah, and it gives me, it gives me the motivation to even step up and to keep my integrity in check. And
people are watching.
They're watching.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, I'm just like y'all. There's 10 times a day I want to hop out and punch somebody in traffic in the face, but
in Jesus' name, of course.
Yeah. Like Jesus.
That's why I took the protein snack shop sticker out of the back of my car.
She's a terrible driver.
I am a terrible driver.
Oh man.
Well,
Well, I
we'll let
love
you-
y'all, man. And thank y'all so much for having me.
Thank you
No,
so much
thank
for
you.
being here.
Blessing and best wishes to you, man.
Yeah, and I'm gonna come see y'all next week. I need some more snacks.
Oh, we
Yeah.
brought you.
We
back.
brought you.
Oh,
a
did
whole
you?
bunch.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
We
Awesome.
hooked you up.
Awesome. Well, thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
you.